The bloodbath is the extension of the Israelite troops' politics for the recent 7 weeks, survey in Dwell Munition at Rally, on the supposition how nobody coming the division fencing is a legal goal. Marie Elizabeth Angra, the team's member in Gaza Strip, told in a declaration. France CEO Emmanuel Macron as well convicted this abuse of the Israelite forces versus protesters. In a declaration, Time Australia Overseas Secretary Julie Archbishop named on Israel to be proportional in its answer and chorus of undue use of strength. In a telephone urge in Palestine, lead Mahmoud Abbas, Turkey CEO Recep Tayyip Erdogan convicted the attacks and willing Allah's grace to all martyrs. On to the formal Anadolu News story agent. Turkey is recall its ambassadors to Washington and Tel Aviv for consultations. On to country-run Anadolu agent. Joint Nations Secretariat General Antonio Guterres was deeply worried by the abuse in Gaza Strip and forced Israelite forces to work out maximal moderation in the use of dwell flame, his Vice Representative Farhan Haq told. A offered UN Safety Justice Click declaration, put striker by Kuwait, was locked by the US, onto a UN briefcase. It as well reaffirmed UN resolutions on the Statute of Jerusalem, proverb how latter events had no legislative impact by World Act. The declaration was not gone by the Safety Justice, following creature closed one day the US locked it, onto a UN briefcase. Forcible answer about 35,000 protesters collected at the boundary of Gaza Strip and Israelite area Monday to subject to the legation go. Ongoing the large March of Back demonstrations that include been continuing with March in the run-up to the 70th anniversary date of the basis of the country of Israel and deportation of thousands of Palestinians. Israelite military utilized teardrop gas and dwell munition to try and scatter the mob, murder at low 58 and damaging as lot as 2,700, on to the Palestine Public Health Ministry. In a declaration, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, charged the Palestine belligerent team Hamas, that controls Gaza Strip, of guideline a bomber transactions and incitement the protesters, who had collected in multiple locations on the boundary fencing, to hold which Israel outlined as terrorism attacks. The war estimated several protesters threw rock and Molotov cocktails, and burnt rubber. The IDF as well declared to include foiled an assault by 3 gunman Palestinians close Rafah, shut to the boundary in Egypt, for a especially forcible demonstrate. Mons die duty was the largest quantity of loss of life incurred in one day, with the newest circle of demonstrations began more than rather than 6 weeks back. The early top was 17, that happened on the day the protests begun on March 30th. More than protests to go. Palestine credibility CEO Abbas called an disaster by the government meet on Monday afternoon and announced a general hit and 3 days of weeping, both of to begin Tuesday. Present is one of the largest fierce days our human beings include seen, Abbas told, uplayed his thoughts to the again anointed U.S. legation. Up we were affliction of illicit Israelite settlements. Now he's else illicit community by the Israel and the joint state. The legation go is controversial for Palestinians, who expect to complain portion of Jerusalem as their next equity, and for lot in the Arabic planet, as it is household to several of the sacred sites in Islamic. The town is as well household to deep sacred sites for Jew and Christians. Several top Trump card authority officials were on brush to eyewitness the formal opening of the U.S. legation in Jerusalem on Monday, labeling the official upending of many decades of US overseas politics. CEO Donald Trump card did not visit the rite, but in a live video communication speak at the occasion he congratulated Israel, proverb the discovery had been a length period upcoming. Israel is a independent nationality in the order love each some independent nationality to define its own equity, yet for lot year, we unsuccessful to recognize the evident, the simple fact how Israel's equity is Jerusalem, Trump card told in the before recorded speech. Time Mons protests in Gaza Strip were organized to correspond in the legation discovery. The demonstrations are on far more than rather than the changing in statute of the U.S. Consular Agency House in Jerusalem. On each Friday with the end of March, tens of thousands include March to the Boundary to Get Portion in Large March of Back protests, that search to allocate Palestinians order to back to homes lost by their ancestors for the war how followed the basis of the country of Israel in 1948. The protests end on Tuesday in the anniversary date of which Palestinians urge Nakba date, or date of disaster, that symbolism while the more than rather than 700,000 Palestinians who were each sent of or fled their homes for the wars how enclosed Israel's basis. Thousands are anticipated to visit Tuesday's demonstrate.